Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Halftime in Sacramento with the Pacers and the Kings tied at 52. We break it down. Jerry, your thoughts on the first 24 minutes?
Well, it's an interesting game in the sense that both teams really want to play almost the same way. They want to play at a fast pace, get the floor spread. Obviously they got a lot of 3-point shooters. Uh, it's kind of a case of who can do it better, and maybe the turnover assist battle probably might be very well be the determining factor, I think.
Yeah, I thought it was a great pickup off the bench in terms of the hustle. It set the tone for the end of that second quarter, picking up the starters. Doug McDermott getting on the ground, and then it bled into the other guys. So very interesting first half.
Yeah, not exactly the best half of basketball we've ever seen, that's for sure. There's definitely a room for improvement, big time on both sides. I wonder which coach thinks they're in a better position right now with 24 minutes left, Jerry.
Well, I think it's always probably the visiting coach. If you're tied at the half, you probably feel better. And I did think the Kings had a chance to really stretch the game out a little bit, but just couldn't do it. And missing some shots and all. But good effort. Really, it's just a case of both teams kind of, I think, just simply makes open shots down the stretch and doesn't turn it over because it's going to be up and down game.
Jerry, Miles Turner guarding the paint very well as he always does. Sabonis challenging him. Do you want to see Sabonis continuing to do that, or do you want to look for him to maybe look to spray the ball out?
Well, I'd prefer probably he spread a little more there, and then also the Kings go to a high screen roll. They can really take advantage of Turner in that situation. If you get the floor spread and you've got a Monk and Ox Sabonis pick and roll, I think that's where Turner really has a trouble.
Tyrese Halliburton back in the building. He did not play well at all in that first half, Rhino.
No, he didn't, but he started to get going a little bit there in the second quarter, shooting the 3-ball. I'll tell you that TJ McConnell, though, he just gives them such a little spark, moving the ball, very fundamental, Jerry. What you ask for in a basketball player?
Oh, he's terrific. Actually this year, I think if you look at it in Indiana fans' perspective, he's probably played better than Tyrese has this year. He's just what you saw in the first half is what you see every night from him. Just very productive. One of those guys every team needs. So, yeah, he's kind of a key. But so far, I think, it's just kind of even Steven. Siakam obviously is a real key. I thought Keegan did a nice job on him to make at least work for his shots. And I just think it's going to come down to winning the ball game. It really Fox, Monk, and DeRozan, I think they've got some advantages, and they've got to win that 3-man battle, to be honest.
Ryan, both these teams really mirror images of one another, both having very disappointing seasons so far.
Yeah, very much so. Still trying to find themselves, and kind of comes down to that 3-ball too. Is it falling? Yep. Is it not falling? Because as Jerry said, as you said, they play both the same styles. And I think that's why transition is going to be so important in this second half. The Kings are going to absolutely have to get into the fast break, and the transition defense is going to have to be on point, Jerry.
Yeah, and one thing too, both teams have part of the thing they're implementing new players, very talented players, differently. Mathurin was out all last year pretty much with an injury. Now he's playing, but he's a ball stopper on a team that really wants to move it, a little bit like DeRozan tends to be. And so I think both teams really, are guys they need to play, but they're still adjusting and probably haven't adjusted particularly well.
The issue I have with this game right now is the Kings are at home where they have not been good. Obviously, their record speaks for itself with a horrible home record at 6-10. And they were extended last night in a tight game. I just think it's going to catch up with them. I don't really have confidence the Kings are going to win this game. And for that reason, I'm going to pick Indiana to win an ugly game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring second half. I'm going to pick them to win 106-104. I just don't have any confidence in the Kings right now, guys. I'm sorry. I just don't.
Well, I'm going just the other way. Kings 106, Pacers, just for exactly the same reason. I have no confidence in the Kings, but the last 2 games I did have confidence in the Kings, and how'd that work out for me?
So, I like the way you think, Jerry.
So
I'm kind of like George. I'm like George Costanza on Seinfeld. Just go opposite whatever.
There you
Please.
go. I'm going to say the Kings win this game simply because of the hustle. They have been getting on the ground, going after the 50-50 balls, 9 offensive rebounds in the first half. I think they find a way to pull it out, but I do think they're going to have to shoot the three ball at over 40% to win.
Well, and how often does that happen?
It
Not
depends
very
on the
often.
night. It's either a landslide or it's very below. Yeah.
Yep.
But this could be the night. This could be the night. Well, I mean, really, they just simply got to find a way to win the game. But, and that's how it's hard to, when you're 6-10 at home, it's hard to be confident you're going to do that. But they have to do that if they want to have any kind of
Jerry, I wanted to ask you a question that we went over on the post-game show last night. And by the way, I made it very clear last night I was not advocating for the firing of Mike Brown. But I asked the question, if Mike Brown had not signed an extension in the offseason, how close would he be to no longer being the coach of the Kings through this brutal stretch and the last 2 losses to the Lakers? Obviously, they wouldn't have fired him last night with a game less than 24 hours to go. But, we know the owner very well. And, if the Kings should lose today, the final game heading into Christmas, where they're going to be distant from the rest of the pack in the West, something's got to happen with this team. Something. And Jerry, you've been in it both sides. You've been on management. You've been on the coach. You've had every job you can have. You know how it works.
Yeah, I do. And I think it is. I think you hit on it. I mean, I think Mike Brown getting the 3-year extension and huge money, by the way. I don't think this seat is particularly, it may be hot, but it's not going to be that kind of hot. Had he not gotten that extension, I think, I definitely think it'd be something that it would be discussed because, what gets guys fired is expectations.
Yep.
That's always the case. Basically expectations, and when teams don't do as well as expected, and this team certainly isn't doing as well as expected.
Such a great point. You think about that with DeMar coming in, confidence through the roof. You've got that third piece that the Kings have needed all along, Jerry.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at other teams in the league. I mean, like if Minnesota's going through something similar, not as bad, but a lot of expectations. But it is about expectations. The teams that are expected to be bad, the coaches are never in trouble, and they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's an interesting time, and I mean, there's no doubt that this team has enough talent, I think, to start to win, but they haven't consistently, and that's all you can go on.
And again, that 6-10 home is inexplicable. I mean, I just don't get that. This team's talent to be 6-10 at home is mind-boggling, Jerry.
It really is, and I mean, they just we didn't see it in preseason. We just haven't seen it with the consistency at all. They've had moments, but every team has moments, where they have that game, they go on the road. I mean, whether it's Detroit or even the Wizards have won some games they shouldn't have had. So what you're looking for is consistency of effort and production. I think the effort's been okay, but the production hasn't. I mean, you're just not getting enough from Keegan Murray for sure, Herter for the most part, but and the bench in general has just been weak. So I think there's reasons, but no excuses in my mind.
Jerry, 2 quick questions. The first, are you surprised Keon Ellis did not play in the first half?
Oh, very much so. I think he's been good pretty much every time he plays. I don't, especially defensively, because especially with, like, say, O'Connell or Halliburton, who's a really good 3-point shooter, guys that really can space the floor and penetrate. He's the best the Kings have guarding guys like that.
And my next question is through this. That was the first question. You had 2 questions. Go ahead, Rhino.
The second was just going to be DeMar DeRozan getting a lot of 3-point looks in the corner. Is that something that you would look at the coaching staff, where you want to maybe put a Keegan Murray down there, or is there a reason you have DeMar down there?
Well, I think that's the limit of his range. I think that's as much it as anything. I mean, he has a decent percentage of threes, but they're the corner threes, you know. So I mean, yeah, you'd love to have Keegan down there too, or anybody, because that's an
Yep.
easier shot. But I think that's why DeMar is there, because they feel like if he's going to hit a three, that's where it's going to be.
Right now, there are issues going on with rotation that I quite don't understand. I don't know how Keon Ellis goes from a starter to a reserve to not playing, then getting back and being complimented on the post-game press conferences during losses by the coach, and then not playing again. It just doesn't make sense to me, guys. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, that's got me. That's the one that's got me kind of, confused, because I mean, he's not a superstar, but he is a good, really good defender almost every night, and has some impact. And he's a over 40% 3-point shooter on a team who would really like to shoot 3-pointers better. So I guess just from my standpoint, I don't understand why he isn't a 20-minute guaranteed guy every night, 10 minutes.
Yeah, and in fact, guys, he is the Kings' best 3-point shooter.
Which tells you why the Kings are 3 games under 500. No disrespect to Keon Ellis, but he's not supposed to be your best 3-point shooter.
Well, yeah, and when you look at the second best, it's probably Domas.
Yeah.
So that tells you, I mean, there too, I mean, he's improved tremendously, but those two guys shouldn't be your best 3-point
And Malik
shooter.
Monk's not having a good year, guys.
No, not to the level. I mean, he's been erratic,
Yep.
I mean, at his best, he's just terrific. But sometimes he has a tendency to try to, if there's somebody's going to play kind of out of his lane, it'd be Malik. That's what makes him Malik. But you can't have it kind of both ways. He's kind of like a Bobby Jackson used to be. I mean, there'd be times when guys just have more confidence in their ability than they ought to in some cases.
We'll be with you right after the game. We'll take your phone calls. Jerry, thank you very much. Ryan, thank you. Halftime, we're all even. 24 minutes left. We'll see if the Kings can break the drought and get into the win column before Christmas. Light the beam. We'll see. We've got 24 minutes left. We'll break it down in about an hour, Jerry.
Yeah. Well, that'll be very key. To see, hopefully, if they win, will the beam still beam?
Yeah, it might be out of order.
That thing clappered over? Yeah, you may have to scrape off some scabs off of it or something.
You think it's still purple?
Well, I hope to see it. Find out.
Hey, if the Kings lose, they might light the beam, and there might be big tears coming out of the beam. Okay, for
yeah, it's getting close to that for all of us. Okay.
All right, we'll be back in about an hour.
See you guys.
See you, everybody.
Okay.
Bye-bye.